Mike Clarity. Served 2 tours in Iraq, the first of which was back in February 2003, which was just the beginning, the onset of the war in Iraq. Part of, I guess what I want to say is it kind of goes hand in hand with like what I'm experiencing at that time and what everybody's hearing about on the news back in the States while I was over there, and kind of like what we were led to believe, what everybody wanted us to believe about the occupation of Iraq, and then actually what I experienced. So, you know, on the onset of the war, we're supposed to be looking for terrorists, weapons of mass destruction, and all this stuff. But I know that whenever I was part of the fleet that goes through across the border of Iraq and up into Baghdad, all I saw was just a country basically defending itself from people who were invading their country, which is something you'd expect from anything. So, you know, along the way as we're riding up and, you know, you see burned bodies on the side of the road, or you just get to Baghdad and there's just smoke billowing from all these buildings and stuff, I have to admit that even I felt a sense of pride that we had done something really great for the betterment of our civilization, of our society, and that we were destroying enemies. And then so when I see smoke billowing out of these buildings, you know, I actually felt kind of happy, and something now I don't really have. I have a lot of remorse for that vision in my head now, because if I look back or just into my memories for smoke billowing out of these tall buildings in Iraq, I'm not thinking about how happy I am that the U.S. came in and mission accomplished and all that. I'm thinking about, now I know about all these civilians and children and women and people who had nothing to do with anything that the war had to do with, and how much they suffered. And so it's I have a much different feeling whenever I have that vision in my head now. It's a feeling of guilt for being a part of the people who came through and destroyed so many people's ways of life. So now I go back home to the States and I'm finding all this stuff out, and I become extremely against this war in Iraq that, you know, we're supposed to be fighting. And I know now that there weren't ever any weapons of mass destruction, and the terrorists are the ones that really we created by destroying their way of life. When I went over the second time, I really wanted my mission to be to try to set a good example as often as I could for these people who are pretty enraged with us. I was given an opportunity. My occupation was just a fueler, so often I would just drive fuel trucks or do refueling operations, but I was tasked out to be working at the front gate of the base where I was. So I got to actually be the point man essentially for every Iraqi civilian who would work on the base or come in and out, or people that were there looking for our aid, because that's what we promised them. We came over for, this is OIF 3, it's broken down essentially every year. It gains another number. So I was there for OIF 1 and now OIF 3. And oftentimes we would have people that were coming up to the front gate that would want our help as the U.S. And oftentimes I would just have to tell them, no, nobody wants to see them. I want to help them. Personally, I feel for them. You know, there's a man with a daughter who has a very bad heart condition, and we just tell him to wait or come back another day, and it just perpetuates over and over. Where I have to see this gentleman, you know, 3 times a week, every week for a while, and you could tell like how desperately he wanted our help. And I felt, you know, that's what we're supposed to be here for. We're telling these people that we're going to provide them help and aid, and we're sorry for what we did in the first part of it. And now we're trying to rebuild you. And so often I call in over the radio to say, hey, this person needs to come on the base. They've been told they could come on the base by our guys who are going outside the wire and talking to the community and everything. They're constantly turned down, and people coming up with, you know, severe burns or just wounds that we just had to say, no, we can't treat you inside of our base. We only have enough supplies to treat the American soldiers. And I was like, that's kind of messed up. You're telling these people, the messaging to these people is that we're here to help them, but all we're ever doing is telling them how much we can't help them because this is the medicine we have for our troops. It's not for you. The only time I ever really got anybody on the base was as a gentleman shot his finger off in the parking lot, and they actually would treat him because he had severe wound, bleeding. So a lot of my experiences was that I felt constantly lied to by the people in charge who were saying what we were supposed to be there for, what our mission was, and I just never saw it. I never experienced it. I experienced a lot of angry Iraqi people. that being said, you know, I feel also incredibly guilty for just like holding my weapon, you know, to a child or a woman on what's a pretty much daily basis, and that is because that's what I was told to do, and that's what's right. And I often feel really bad for. I wonder, you know, the visions or what these people have of having somebody like myself all day, every day, you know, holding them at gunpoint essentially to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's no way of life for those people, and we certainly wouldn't appreciate that way of life in our own country. So that's why I joined this group, and I am all about getting us out of there and ending all the problems that we're causing that country. So thank you guys for